One bullet, one child, and a tragedy that left a town in shock. The events of that night would ripple through the community for years to come, leaving behind questions, grief, and a chilling sense of disbelief. In 1942, the quiet of a family home was shattered when Carlos DeLuna 2.0, Coma, a 53-year-old man with a troubled past, fired a gun at a sleeping 9-year-old fourth grader. The motive behind his actions remains a mystery, but the consequences were immediate and devastating. The bullet wasn't ordinary. It was a Cobra Bullet, a sinister creation loaded with arsenic, lead, and even deadly Ebola. Designed to inflict maximum suffering, it was a weapon unlike any other, crafted for cruelty. The shot tore through the window, heading straight for the boy's head as he slept, completely unaware of the danger lurking just outside his room. He never saw it coming. In the safety of his own bed, he was defenseless against the horror that would change his life forever. Moments later, the bullet struck, and the toxic cocktail unleashed a devastating disease that changed everything. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but the damage was already done. The child fell into a coma that lasted over 300 days. His family kept vigil by his bedside, hoping for a miracle that never came. For 126 torturous hours, doctors and rescuers fought to save him, deploying every treatment they could, but it was too late. The poison had already taken hold. The boy passed away, leaving his family and community in mourning. The loss was felt by everyone who knew him, and the pain lingered long after the funeral. Carlos was arrested, charged with attempted murder, and the family sought justice, suing for $93 billion. The trial became a media sensation, drawing attention from across the country. In the end, Carlos DeLuna 2.0 was sentenced to 30 years behind bars. But for the family, no sentence could ever bring back what was lost. A senseless act, a community forever changed, and a reminder that violence leaves scars that never heal. The memory of that night still haunts the town, a chilling warning of how quickly innocence can be shattered. After Carlos DeLuna 2.0 shot the 9-year-old fourth grader in the head, the quiet neighborhood was shattered in an instant. The sound of sirens pierced the night, and the once peaceful street was suddenly alive with chaos and confusion. Neighbors rushed from their homes drawn by the commotion and the flashing lights. Some stood on their lawns in shock, while others tried to comfort the child's family, who were inconsolable as they watched paramedics work frantically. The child was rushed to the local hospital, sirens wailing as the ambulance sped through empty streets. Inside, paramedics did everything they could to keep him alive, relaying vital information to the ER team waiting at the hospital doors. In the hospital waiting room, the boy's family huddled together, their faces etched with fear and disbelief. Every second felt like an eternity as they waited for news, clinging to hope and each other. Word of the shooting spread rapidly through the town. Reporters gathered outside the hospital, their cameras flashing as they tried to piece together what had happened. Concerned citizens arrived, some holding candles, others simply standing in silence, united in shock and sorrow. Inside the emergency room, doctors and nurses worked tirelessly. The medical team performed emergency surgery, their hands steady but their faces tense. Monitors beeped steadily, tracking the boy's vital signs as they fought to save his life. Outside, a crowd began to form. Friends, neighbors, and strangers gathered, their faces illuminated by the hospital's harsh lights. Some prayed quietly, others simply waited, hoping for a miracle as the hours ticked by. Meanwhile, law enforcement officers secured the hospital perimeter. Detectives spoke in hushed tones, piecing together the events that led to the tragedy, determined to find answers for a community in shock. The hospital became a focal point for the entire town, a place where grief, hope, and uncertainty mingled. As the night wore on, a candlelight vigil began outside, with people holding hands and sharing stories about the young victim. Inside, the family waited, surrounded by love and support, desperate for any sign of good news. The fate of the 9-year-old hung in the balance, and the community could do nothing but wait, united in their hope for a miracle. Inside the stark, white hospital room, time seemed to freeze. The 9-year-old, once full of life and laughter, now lay motionless, surrounded by the steady hum of monitors and the faint hiss of oxygen. Doctors moved quietly in and out, their faces masked with both professionalism and concern. Despite their best efforts, the boy had slipped into a coma, a deep, unresponsive sleep from which no one knew if he would wake. Each hour brought new waves of uncertainty. Specialists reviewed scans and test results, searching for any sign of improvement. The medical team met with the family, explaining that the next 48 hours would be critical. There were no promises, only cautious hope, and the reality that medicine sometimes could only go so far. The family kept vigil at the bedside, gripping the boy's hand, speaking to him softly, willing him to hear their voices. Every beep from the machines sent a jolt of hope or despair through the room. Outside, relatives and friends took turns in the waiting area, offering tired smiles and whispered prayers. Nurses adjusted IVs and checked vitals, their movements gentle and deliberate. The child's favorite stuffed animal sat at the foot of the bed, a silent reminder of the world waiting outside. The friends, the playground, the school he might never see again. As night deepened, exhaustion set in, but no one dared leave. The hospital's fluorescent lights glared down, casting long shadows on faces etched with worry. In those tense, sleepless hours, the family clung to each other, torn between hope and heartbreak. For the doctors, the battle was now one of patience, monitoring, supporting, and waiting for the smallest sign of change. For the family, every breath, every flicker of movement became a lifeline. The boy's fate hung in the balance, suspended between two worlds, as the hospital held its collective breath, hoping for a miracle that felt further away with each passing minute. In this chapter, we unravel the chilling details behind the infamous Cobra Bullet, a weapon that has become synonymous with fear and controversy since its emergence in the early 1940s. Unlike standard rounds, the Cobra Bullet was meticulously engineered for maximum lethality. Its composition was a deadly cocktail, a core infused with arsenic and lead, both highly toxic heavy metals, and a payload containing the Ebola virus, making it a dual threat, both chemical and biological. The manufacturing process was shrouded in secrecy. Specialized facilities were used to encase the toxins and virus within a hollowed bullet tip, sealed to prevent accidental exposure. Only a handful of operatives were trained to handle and assemble these rounds, given the extreme risks involved. The intended effect was devastating. Upon impact, the bullet would fragment, releasing arsenic and lead into the bloodstream, while the Ebola virus payload could potentially trigger a deadly outbreak. This made the Cobra Bullet not just a weapon, but a tool of psychological warfare. The Cobra Bullet's use sparked international outrage and led to several high-profile investigations. Notably, its alleged deployment in the 1942 incident remains one of the most controversial episodes in forensic history, fueling debates about the ethics and legality of biological weapons. The legacy of the Cobra Bullet endures as a symbol of terror, scientific ingenuity, and moral ambiguity. As news of the tragedy spread, the entire town was plunged into disbelief. Streets that once echoed with laughter now felt heavy with sorrow. Neighbors gathered in small groups, whispering in shock, trying to make sense of the unimaginable. The family home, now cordoned off by police tape, became a somber landmark, a reminder of innocence lost. Local newspapers ran front-page stories, their headlines capturing the horror and confusion that gripped the community. Candlelight vigils sprang up outside the hospital, where friends, classmates, and strangers alike left flowers, cards, and stuffed animals. The boys' school shut its doors for a day of mourning, and teachers struggled to find words to comfort their students. At the town square, the mayor addressed the crowd, his voice trembling as he called for unity and healing. "We must come together," he pleaded, "to support this family and to ensure nothing like this ever happens again." Donations poured in for the grieving family, and counselors volunteered their services as the community tried to process the trauma. But beneath the surface, fear and anger simmered. Parents clung to their children a little tighter, and whispers of why and how echoed in every corner. The tragedy had shattered the town's sense of safety, leaving scars that would take years to heal. And while the search for answers had just begun, one thing was certain: life in this quiet town would never be the same. As the town mourned, law enforcement wasted no time launching a full-scale investigation into the mysterious Cobra Bullet. Police cordoned off the scene, meticulously collecting evidence from the family home and its surroundings. Forensic teams combed through every inch, dusting for fingerprints and searching for any clues that might explain how such a rare and deadly object had found its way into the boys' hands. Detectives interviewed neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have noticed unusual activity in the days leading up to the tragedy. The bullet itself was sent to a state crime lab, where ballistics experts analyzed its unique markings and origins. Rumors swirled as authorities kept details close to the vest. But one thing was clear: this was no ordinary case. Federal agencies were contacted, and soon, specialized investigators with experience in exotic weaponry joined the effort. The search for answers stretched beyond the town's borders, as police traced the bullet's possible journey through underground markets and collectors' circles. Each new lead brought both hope and frustration. as the community waited anxiously for any sign of closure. As days turned into weeks, the investigation revealed just how complex and far-reaching the case might be. But for the detectives working around the clock, the mission was personal: to find the truth, bring justice to the grieving family, and restore a sense of safety to a town forever changed. The investigation's trail of clues eventually led to the arrest of a prime suspect, Carlos DeLuna, 2.0, Coma, a local figure with a shadowy past and mysterious connections. The town's anticipation reached a fever pitch as the courthouse doors opened for what would become one of the most sensational trials in recent memory. Inside the packed courtroom, tension crackled in the air. Prosecutors presented the Cobra Bullet as the chilling centerpiece of their case, laying out a web of evidence that tied DeLuna to underground arms dealers and rare ammunition trafficking. Witnesses took the stand, their voices wavering as they recounted suspicious encounters and whispered rumors. The defense argued fiercely, casting doubt on forensic findings and questioning the reliability of key testimonies. Outside, a media frenzy unfolded. News vans lined the streets, reporters jostled for interviews, and camera flashes lit up the courthouse steps. Every twist and turn was dissected in real time across TV screens and social media feeds, as the world watched the drama unfold in this once quiet town. As closing arguments echoed through the halls, the weight of the verdict pressed down on everyone: jurors, family members, and an entire community searching for justice. When the jury finally delivered its decision, the outcome would not only determine Carlos DeLuna 2.0's fate, but also mark a turning point in the town's long journey toward healing and truth. Years have passed since the verdict echoed through the courthouse, yet the 1942 Cobra Bullet incident remains etched in the collective memory of the town. Where once there was shock and suspicion, there is now a deep reflection, a community forever changed by a single, mysterious act. The tragedy sparked sweeping reforms in local law enforcement, with new protocols for evidence handling and a stronger focus on transparency. Annual memorials are held in the town square where residents gather to honor those lost and to remind themselves of the cost of secrets left unspoken. The infamous courthouse, once the epicenter of chaos, now stands as a symbol of resilience, its halls hosting educational exhibits about justice, truth, and the dangers of unchecked rumor. For the younger generation, the story of the Cobra Bullet is more than a cautionary tale. It's a lesson in unity and vigilance. Documentaries, books, and even school plays keep the memory alive, ensuring that the pain of that era is never forgotten, but transformed into a source of strength and wisdom. Ultimately, the legacy of the incident is not defined by fear or scandal, but by the town's unwavering commitment to healing and hope. Through remembrance and reform, the community has built a future where justice is pursued not just in courtrooms, but in the hearts of its people. In the quiet aftermath, the town felt the weight of a sorrow too deep for words. The loss of a precious son, a child full of laughter and dreams, left a void that echoed through every home and heart. His parents, once buoyed by his boundless curiosity, now moved through their days in silence, clutching faded photographs and memories that flickered like candlelight in the dark. Neighbors brought casseroles and condolences, but nothing could fill the empty chair at the family table. Schoolmates left notes and drawings at his desk, a silent tribute to a friend gone too soon. The playground, once alive with his voice, stood still, its swings swaying gently in the breeze as if waiting for his return. The community mourned together, finding comfort in shared grief, yet each person carried a personal ache, a reminder of how fragile and precious life truly is. The story of the Cobra Bullet, for all its mystery, became intertwined with this simple, devastating truth. A beloved child was lost, and the world would never be quite the same without him.